All right, we are back. It is the 29th episode, and that's pretty good. I only figured I would make it to 20, so let's see where we can go. I'm thinking maybe 50 at this point, and either we'll get to that point and just get bored and call it, or keep going. This is pretty relaxing for me. I'm keeping it pretty nonchalant, impromptu, pretty loose, and having a lot of fun just messing around. So hopefully you guys are at least having fun with the project files, doing a little tweaking of them and playing around on your own. So I had this idea. I wanted to take the last sketch and use that as a jumping off point. Let's go ahead and have a little listen. Cool. Let us add in our tremolo preset. And this here grain delay, that'll take the beat and kind of smush it a bit. And let's give ourselves some more reverb. It really didn't take much to smear this thing out a bit. Let's get a little drone thing going. That'll do. Should be good enough. Let's make sure we're set up here. Let's turn off retrigger so that way we get our tails overlapping here. Turn this down just a little bit. If you've got a straight sine drone like this, depending on how loud you're keeping it, it can get pretty fatiguing. It's definitely matching with the visuals. This is just some silly thing I put together in Resolume using solid shapes and animating a lot of the effects. Honestly, you don't usually get anything too spectacular looking when you just work with the built-in effects in Resolume, but if you get yourselves a lot of different clips together, then you can make an interesting spread at that point, but it takes a lot of GPU and CPU even just to do something this simple. So Resolume is a lot of fun, but it's mainly best working with pre-rendered material, if you ask me. This is my attempt at trying to create something just all vector-based inside of Resolume, solely inside of Resolume. It's doable, and I mean, in certain cases, this kind of look could be very, usable, I think, for electronic music. It doesn't take much sometimes as far as projecting visuals at a live performance. Yeah, I've seen, far worse than this. Plenty far worse. Okay, cool. So we've got this drone thing happening. I like this subtle pulsing rhythm, and then the previous sketches stuff here that's kind of fading in and out is a nice like set of chaos and textures in the background. Turn it down, maybe just even a little bit more. let's put in another, just make sure we're all good here. Yep. All right, cool. Yeah, why not? Sometimes I just randomly hit keys. You know, if you stay in the ASDF range, at least in Ableton, you get, you know, that's basically the white keys. I want to line these up a little more together, and let's go ahead and get them. So I dropped an effect into our project folder. Something I messed a little bit with in the past, but it's something I want to play around with more. It's cool because it takes MIDI notes and repeats them, makes a nice delay. Let's go down an octave. And I think with the feedback it'll just keep dropping the notes as they go. And as long as we have a velocity set up, we'll also notice the decay of feedback with our I want to see what happens when we automate this. Let's turn this way up. Kind of got an interesting haphazardous pattern there. So, oh, nothing there. That was odd. Let's click on adapt, unadaptive. All right, now we can automate this thing. I wonder why we're not seeing anything here. That's bizarre. I must not have the latest version, but it still seems to be working. Looks like a lot of, wow, we've got a lot of notes here. That's, I don't remember actually playing all those. Forget what I just did to make all that happen, but whatever. I guess I wanted to move this over more and create more space between. There we go. And I think because our feedback is all the way up, that we should automate this also. And I love the MIDI delay because you can do a lot of cool stuff with it when you're performing live. It's really useful if you want to do like live drumming or beat loops, and I'll do a little demonstration here in just a second. We are just randomly drawing stuff. I forget these audio hotkeys need the UI of Ableton to be configured just so. But that is A-okay. So now, let's play with, there we go. Yeah, I'm not sure why this is turning on when I'm turning this on. We've got something that I accidentally set in there. I'll just have to keep an eye on that. We could track it down. I'm sure it's just any number of things automated in here. And maybe it's on this. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like somehow we automated this. I'm not getting any of my... Wow, that's fascinating. But I like how we almost get a vocal type of sound coming out of the... Where is the automation happening in here? Let me go ahead and turn this off. Whoops. Did not mean to do that. Let's go ahead and delete it. And turn that off. First, I need to... yeah, this thing somehow got automated. I guess I had recording on. Yeah, looks like right there. Oh, that's weird. It keeps jumping. Okay, so we have this selected. Right click, clear envelope. I think we're good. Okay. Yeah. There's so many ways to trip up, and definitely I seem to hit a lot of that. I hit a lot of bugs. I don't know. I'm just working in a weird way, and it's just the nature of the beast, I guess. So, I was going to do a demonstration. Let me unlink this one. Pull this over here. Yeah, clean that one up. I wish it could auto simplify after I record some knob movements. There's probably an options or a setting to make it do that. Save that one for a rainy day. I usually like to spend a little bit of time, especially when I don't have energy to do this kind of sketching, but yet I still want to feel like I'm accomplishing something. I will just spend a little time, trying to organize my plugins folder. Or there's a decent book written by Dennis DeSantis, published through Ableton, and it's like 100 tips for beginners, or I don't know. It's kind of a basic level book of information and ideas on how to inspire yourself and keep the process flowing. Well, he has one chapter on mise en place, and which is a French term used in kitchens for organizing everything and getting everything set up so that when you sit down to create, everything is where you need it. You're not spending any time in the creation process fumbling about with, organizing and trying to find stuff. It's a very streamlined workflow at that point. So the book by Dennis DeSantis, the name is eluding me right now, but you can find it through the Ableton website, actually did have a lot of interesting information, and I read it, and I had already been working in Ableton for 15 years or so, and I still learned things. So it's a really interesting read for all different levels, I think. Some others might, who've been working with DAWs and sound design in Ableton for that long, might think it's a bit rudimentary, and it is kind of geared for people in the beginning, giving them ideas on how to make it fun and be able to keep the momentum going. So let's set up a quick and easy, quick and dirty beat. It's kind of pretty. Turn the feedback down. Yeah, 1 in D. Set to sync is it's quite a long. Well, I could just demonstrate without making a beat, obviously. If we set our feedback all the way up, any notes I play will just repeat forever. And it's pretty obvious, it's just like the audio delay. So you could play in these loops, which for doing live performancing is, you know, looping stuff is a great way to create live sets. If you want to do something more interesting than samples, I mean, you could combine both. You could have certain, you know, sample-based sections of a song and certain parts where you perform it using whatever techniques you want. Some people are just that good at performing live, they could it's kind of pretty. It's got that rhythm. Almost a little trancy, dare I say it. As much as I don't care for trance. So let's do a half a beat or half a measure. See, that's even interesting. It's got that rhythm going on. So, you know, if we restart this project, obviously we lose this loop. So we want to pull MIDI from the 14 instrument rack. Let's do post effects, this being really the only effect in use. And we'll call this MIDI loop 1. And it looks like, yeah, all the notes coming out of our echo are there. Looks like they're all there. It's nice when you have a song that's got like a drone and just a bunch of random textures to have a melodic rhythmic section kind of like this. And these, I think we got enough there. I don't think there's any more variations happening. We could have dropped a humanizer after this, and you would see in the recording the effect of that, which would be a lot of random notes. And I kind of want to hear what that'll sound like now. So yeah, the simple echo, it's a great tool for creating rhythms. I didn't really do much. I was kind of almost hitting random keys in the ASDF range on my laptop. And if we wanted to further refine these notes to the beat, you could drop in an arpeggi. And an arpeggiator does an interesting thing to notes going into it. It places them at the next, you know, whatever you set your rate at, it'll place them at that next beat. Of course, it kind of forces the length of its output to whatever the gate is. You could add a note length after that to get much longer. And in fact, that's an interesting move to sort of add length and pull the length away as a modulate that across a song's length. And you know, it can be create for some interest and some change that keeps a song interesting throughout. And if you don't want to get the repeats, but you want the notes to sort of link up to whatever you set your rate is, that'll fire this basically quantizes the incoming to this 1/16 here, and you know, whatever you set it to. So as long as you set your length short. So in this case, it's an interesting effect. You know, we could group it. We could do weird things like create another chain here. Oh, and on this section, we could select both. We could drag these out. This is our effects, right? Yeah, so we could create a fade in to the pseudo. I'm going to say this is like pseudo quantized. And then drag up. So here's our without. Well, it sounds like we're still getting some effects going on here, but I think it was also because we had... Oh. Oh, and of course we turned this off, so that really... So we could fade in between our weird effects here and just the original what's coming out of here. So obviously we turn this off. Oh, and that's cool. I actually didn't know that. If you turn the max for life, it keeps the notes in there. Oh, that's cool. I'm sure if we restart, those notes will not be recorded in there. I would be very surprised if they are, and I might have to do a test after this just to double check to see. But we recorded this series of notes here, so we could obviously send these out into here, right into the, well, we could do track in. It doesn't look like they're coming through. I think we have to set this to in. Oh, I'm not even sending it into the right spot. Yeah, so we can, well, we have to set monitor in, and then, yeah. And we've got an instrument, like you could see, like almost a feedback loop. MIDI effects coming from 14 instruments, so we want to turn this off. Which is interesting to note. You can also create a feedback loop between two MIDI tracks. We'll save that one for a rainy day, but using the note length and some witchery in there with some of these effects, you can create an interesting sort of feedback loop between two MIDI tracks. But I think using the Max for Live patch is a way easier solution, and it's a real lightweight patch. So yeah, so we're getting our loop that we recorded. So that's good. So anytime you do something while you're sketching, you do something with a simple echo, you kind of want to record it because you're going to lose it if you restart your... yeah. So I guess the only way we lose our loop is if we pull that feedback down. And you could also, automate this feedback to have to sort of randomly turn on and off. So as you're playing in live or whatever, you're going to get different. You're going to get sort of various cutoff points. So if we pull this down, we'll get much less velocity, and it behaves a lot like an audio delay, really. And then we could send this one in, and I guess the notes also just pass through the simple echo. So we could use a combination of both. In fact, I think that the notes are actually recording into the simple echo. Yeah. So that's something to note. We could set up we could block the notes coming into this. We could, if we wanted just a dry through that doesn't go into the simple echo. Let's see if this works. Let's go ahead and turn the feedback down and kill that. Yeah, and we can use the speaker icon on just an empty MIDI effects rack. So that basically kills anything trying to go through there, blocking stuff. Which, you know, we need to be able to turn off because at this point, you know, we want to record a few notes into our looper. So let's... Okay, so now we've got this blocked. And if we send these notes through, they're coming in here. And they're trying to go through here, but they're getting blocked, but they're also passing through here. So if we stop this, let me go ahead and just solo these. And if we sort of play around with this here, this feedback, we'll notice the volumes of the notes getting a little more sporadically less and less. And then we'll hit play on this. Interesting stuff to think about in terms of live performance. When I do live performances, I like to have some of these looping capabilities, as well as some generative stuff like, you know, what's going on in this group here. Some of these noises. It would be really easy to set up a looper on here and, you know, have both, I call it looper, obviously the simple delay, it can work as a looper basically for MIDI notes, but you could have all of your tracks set up and you can turn the, you know, using MIDI, you could set the inputs of things. So as long as you have a controller where you can turn on various items, you know, you could essentially, as long as you know what MIDI knobs are turning on MIDI notes into what instruments, you could just close down the entire screen. You don't even need to have the laptop open on stage. Personally, I think laptops on stage are a bit of an eyesore. You know, no one wants to get the impression of, you know, that, you know, you're up there just checking your emails or whatever. It's definitely something to consider. I mean, obviously, you know, people need to do what they feel is most comfortable. I think for the longest time I had the laptop on stage, and when I started performing live, that was actually the fashionable thing. You know, it was the beginning of using computers and laptops as a live performance instrument. And then over the years, it became almost just an ugly eyesore. In certain shows, even still, you know, it doesn't matter, and people actually are totally okay with it. I think as long as there's some kind of a video going on, you know, people, it doesn't matter what you got on stage. And I'm more interested in people watching, you know, a movie and doing a live soundtrack to that versus people trying to stare at me and, you know, what gear do I have and all this nonsense. I kind of feel like is defeats the purpose or isn't the point. It's all about, you know, the sights and the sounds. But I guess there's a lot of people that really still wish for that old school, you know, they just want to see a band up there doing band-like things, you know, rocking out, taking that MIDI controller and just like slamming it, you know, which I have seen, and it is quite hilarious. All right, let's automate this really quick. Not there, but I guess I need a MIDI clip. So I'm almost done here, and I think I actually do need to record the MIDI notes coming from this simple echo, but first things first. Because I do like these sort of interlocking melodic or rhythmic things happening with this. Cool. Okay, so There's a lot of nutty sounds coming out of that first group there. Might have to turn that down, or put a side chain so that with these melodies are pushing it down as they... I want to figure out a side chain so that only the higher notes coming out of this instrument push down the volume. And there's probably a way to do that. I think we could route the sound from this into a separate channel and just boost the high end and then pull, you know, the side chain. There's you can do just about anything you can think of in here, honestly. So much I have yet to explore and discover. And as much as I want to complain about bugs or whatever the heck in Ableton, etc., there's still just so much goodness to be excited about. Cool. So now I've got the sidechain coming from 14 instrument. We'll call this rhythmics. So we've got this drone here. What is this? I just totally forgot about. I see. Rhythmics 1 and Rhythmics 2. So I needed to pull audio from our simple echo because when we reopen this, I want to be able to have this. I'm going to duplicate this layer and change the routing here. So we want to pull from our, let's go ahead and rename this so I can just, okay, note looper is the one. Post effects, I think, is what we want to pull from. Note looper, post effects. Yeah, because there's the MIDI rack in there. We don't want the MIDI rack because that's our muted, and that's before the simple echo. So I think that we should be good. Let's go ahead and mute that because we don't want to be sending audio back through because it's already set up on its output. Yeah, it looks like we're getting those higher notes from the simple echo. I think that we don't need much. Oh, we have this on. I see. Didn't want that, but that's okay. We can work with this. Cool, and this loop is also set up a little off from what we've got going on in our looper, so it looks like this thing is just turning on and off. Let me, we did not want to have, oh, I see, I know what's going on. We've got a, Houston, we have a problem. Let's see, so let's delete that and quickly MIDI. Yeah, so we have this tempo MIDI thing happening here. So we've got MIDI being sent out, MIDI CC, and it's currently linked to the tempo. So if we're not careful when we turn on that MIDI map function, we get the MIDI CC1 map into all kinds of different things. That has caused me a lot of headaches in the past. So anyway, let's unmute this. Or let's turn off our... I'm really thankful that this keeps the MIDI notes inside of it. Must be using like an earn object in there, which kind of records them. And it almost makes me think we might get those notes back when we restart. I don't know. That would be wishful thinking. I know there's a way to do that in Maxer Live. Okay, so this is coming from here, what we're hearing. Okay, cool. So let me mute this and then just turn this back on. Yep, we got that. And we could further add a velocity to this and add a bit of a randomness. We could also drop in a humanizer right here. Getting lost. And I went ahead and categorized our max folder for future ease of whatever use. Cool. So let me... I like this here humanizer. It just adds such a level of randomness to the spacing of things. And again, the arpeggiator, it being a really nice effect to use when you want to play some live rhythms. It maybe doesn't work so well if you're trying to hold notes. You'll just get the arpeggiated held thing, which is what you would expect. So I'm just basically slamming, I'm spamming the ADS F keys. And you can hear it's quantizing what I'm doing. You can see what's coming in. It's like some insanity, right? Here, we'll record ourselves spamming the keys in egregious ways. I've used this feature in live performances to do rhythm stuff live. So you can be playing on the keyboard and you can put a knob on this. So if we turn this off, obviously we'll hear the crazy nonsense that I was just spamming. So yeah, for the most part, it really does it pushes things you play to, I guess, the very next 16th note in this case. The only problem is, of course, if you want to hold something, you know, you're going to get that arpeggiated held sound. But if you're just doing like beats, this thing is actually quite handy. Now that's just a real simple lightweight form of this kind of quantizing. I did put in the MIDI effects now that I'm thinking about it, this MIDI quantize 2.0, which also super useful. You get a slightly different effect, really. And of course this has shuffle, which is a nice little feature. And triplets, which is, I guess you can have the triplets more or less on the arpeggiator effect. So sometimes I like to put a filter, like a high pass filter, and you can really boost the low end. You hear that almost kick coming out of there. I think for this, I actually was liking what I was hearing from this arpeggiator. It's a little more quiet, but I guess that means the velocity, you know, that's going through this MIDI quantizer might be getting squashed. So we could do all kinds of things with it. Add some drive to the velocity, a little randomness. And if we change this clean to OSR, we get the bass line coming out of that. Which is, again, another interesting rhythmic feature with our LFO on this. God, I wish we had some more options for shape, but that's what Max for Live is for, I suppose. So we could fade out our auto filter and fade it in a little bit. So yeah, I think I want to mess about with this. I'm gonna have this be 7. I want this to kind of be on the grid a bit. Yeah, a pretty piece with a lot of weird, strange sounds and rhythms to keep it moving. You know, if you're not going to do beats, having some rhythmics and ambient music is a real useful, fun thing to play around with. Seems like, from what I've noticed over the years, people really like beats or rhythms. They like things to have a sense of motion. I know some people that are just die-hard drone fans, and they don't want any rhythms, they don't want any beats or thumps or any just straight notes. Also, I know some noise heads, they need it super loud, super crazy. I'm just like, use it all. Have some noises in there. Have some loud sounds, have some quiet sounds, have some rhythms, have some spaced out droning sections, maybe throw some beats in there if it makes sense. Although in my music, typically, I don't employ beats anymore. I just have, an aesthetic preference that where beats just usually don't make too much sense. I almost feel like beats can sound pretty forced in certain styles of music, just in my opinion, but I like pulsing rhythms. Some would consider that a beat. It's kind of an ostinato. Basically, what we have here, it's a a very constant. Yeah, maybe we want to turn this off every now and then, get a few random. And if we wanted to add a little bit of high end to this whole thing, we could drop the... Oh, I need to get my little utility open here again so I can see when I've got that recording on. I don't want this to be automated. You can add some nice little hiss with the bit reduction set. Obviously, using volume too loud in there, it just clips, which is not always that great. I do like a bit of sort of hiss layer and a lo-fi kind of feel. Wonder where that came from. And I noticed the other day with the flanger, yeah, we probably don't want this much. It's almost like bees humming or electricity. We could automate that to only turn on every now and then. We could do anything we want. This is our zone of freedom to be as creatively weird and stupid. Yeah, so this added a lot of volume, and now we see the overhead. So I'll turn this off for now. I just want to tweak this phase down. We don't want that. Wish we could get more feedback. Wow, we could have that sound come in every now and then by just automating this. And maybe I'll do that. I'll make this really long so that only every so often we get that. Yeah, we don't want it happening too often. All this beat-esque. So yeah, as long as this envelope is up, we get a little bit of funny kind of sound coming out of the flanger there. Only so often we want it to do that. Now let's see what happens when we dip down. Copy some of that, paste it in there. Pull this length out a little bit. I think I'm feeling pretty good about this one. I did want to modulate this. I do hear some other things I want to modulate. Always when I think I'm good, I'm thinking like, oh, it's time to change a little bit, add a little bit, make it a little better. I've definitely gotten sort of addicted over the years to persisting in trying to perfect things, and that is a good thing and a bad thing. A bad thing in that it means sitting there in front of a computer for way too long when, you know, that's not really that healthy for the human body. It's not meant to be sedentary, if you ask me. And let's automate this also. So we're doing the dual automation modulation combination station. Here we go. And this, I felt like, yeah, I wanted to automate this. Yeah, I could hear this piece going on for 6 minutes. You know, it's even one of those like where this. I'm not sure what that clicking coming from is. Well, what's making that happen in here? So I'm curious what. I'm guessing it's coming from in here. I think it's maybe if we put a limiter. I'm assuming it's happening. The clicking is happening on the bit reduction, so it could just be a weird interaction between this. So as long as we limit what's going into this, we don't get any of this overload. As far as I'm known. So I could be wrong in my assumption. Yeah, a lot of kind of cutesy little weird synthy noises bouncing around in there. I think I want to make this turn off for less time. Here we go. Of course, I just now hear, you know, to put our faux strings section, you know. Not that it really needs that kind of treatment. I mean, it'd be like a kind of, almost cliche-ish. I mean, it's pretty, but it's... I'm curious where we're getting. Yeah, so if we pull this frequency down, we only hear it really subtly. It's really quiet. Although I'm not sure why we're getting that. It's like it's not respecting our attack for some reason. There it goes. It's working out okay there. So maybe We increase the note length from 2 to 7 and 8, so it only happens every so often. High end drone. Cool. Yeah, I could hear this on a piece of vinyl. I can imagine a piece of vinyl spinning around and hearing this coming out of the speakers with a few little vinyl crackles. It's fun to think about. Somebody out there would want to pay a few bucks to hear this and a few others like it on vinyl. I don't know. I always like to play with that idea of I've done a few releases now, so I think that you kind of get addicted to the idea of like, whoa, would this be worth releasing? Or I guess it's just a matter of quality control, not so much I think I'm more addicted to actually finishing things up, although I am forcing myself to take a break from that whole part of the process and just focus on sketching and learning some new things, because God knows there was too many years of just nothing but finishing things up, and that is a strenuous, stressful type of work that requires a lot of alone time, a lot of staying in on sunny days. There's a part of it that isn't super healthy, and maybe it's just the frequency thing too. Maybe at this point, I think the biggest thing for me anyway is trying to learn is slow down, which is why I like these like 1 hour, 1.5 hours. It's like almost an hour chunk of time spent. And the idea not being to, produce anything for quote unquote the finish line or the finished product or whatever, just keeping it fun and lighthearted and giving it all away, and feeling good about that. Sharing is caring, as they say. Anyway, I think I'm good with this, and good to walk away from this piece and never look back. Or at least until the next sketch, when we pull some part of this and just dart off from. But anyway, I'll just let this play out, and until next time.